For this assignment, we are going to be working on the displacement map. This video is specific for our Photopea users. So if you are a Photoshop user, I highly recommend that you follow this video instead, since some of the things that we're going to do a little bit differently from the Photoshop version. All right, to get us started, you are going to need the portrait displace map. So that JPEG here, this is our portrait. And then you're going to need to choose from one of the two following. I believe these are the two that we have here. And you can compare those there, UKUs or UK2. I'm actually going to try to use this UK2 one. I've tried this one before and it works out fairly okay. You can see kind of my little thumbnail there, but I believe this one will be a little bit better. All right, the first part, we're just going to take our portrait, and you can either drag and drop that item, or you can do a file open. Once you have the item in here, we're going to take this background layer and right click. All right, once you drag it in here, we're looking to convert this to a smart object. So we're going to click that. And now we can see the little smart object icon there. Once we pull this into our smart object thing, we are actually going to create an entire new version of this. So we're going to have two documents up here. So I'm going to right click and I'm going to click duplicate into. Okay, so we'll do that one more time there. Right click and duplicate into, not duplicate layer. So duplicate into. And our destination is going to be new project. So click on that, type new project, and I'm going to name this. All right, so that's going to be our displacement map. All right, now that this is our entirely new one, so you can see there's two up here, displacement map, says portrait dis map, and then we also have displacement. This is the one that we're going to work on. All right, so looking over our material, we are actually going to go in and we're going to blur this a little bit. And we're going to do so by going up to filter. And then we're going to come down to blur and we're looking for Gaussian blur. Once you grab the Gaussian blur, we want it to be fairly blurry. On the Photoshop example, it's not quite this blurry. It's just a little bit out of focus, so somewhere around 11, maybe 7 or 8. Wow, 200 is way off. Let's go about here to 10. That looks pretty good, and we'll hit OK. All right, the next thing we're going to need to do is grab an adjustment layer, go up to black and white, and we're not going to change any of these settings. They all look great. I'm just going to click on the Pro there. Okay, let's go and we're going to go File. We're going to go Save as PSD. Now this is going to automatically download this PSD file into my downloads. All right, if you are using a Chromebook, it may go into whatever location things automatically download for you. That could be a different place. I'm not for sure exactly where the Chromebooks are going to place things, but that is where we will gain this later. So for now, I no longer need this material. We are only going to work on this portrait. All right, now in the video, if you all have been watching the Photoshop version, all right, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to be using this image and we're going to set it up so that it's ready for the displacement map. Now on the Photoshop version, we're using the quick selection tool. And when you go to start using that, you're going to see that it's trying to get rid of your rasterization. And we're going to say, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to use the lasso tool instead. Now, I know some of you probably, I'm going to click and drag here to go around the child's face. I know some of you all probably are not the most talented drawers, and you can see here, I went way out of the space, and I did that on purpose. What I'm going to do is I'm going to hit Command D on a Mac or Control D if you're using Windows there. It doesn't have to be perfect, but I'm going to get this here, but it's fine. No worries. Just a little bit, but guess what? That is actually okay. because what we're going to do is we're going to go in and clean a lot of this up and make it look a little bit better, so we can actually use the selection that we've made here. All right, we're picking back up, and we're going to add that layer mask there, and you can see our nice little child here looking all superb. It's not the worst either. All right. If we really wanted to clean this up here, we don't have to, but I could grab my brush, and I'm going to switch this back to default, so we're black and white, and use right bracket to make my brush bigger. White will bring in the color, and if I switch it here, black will take that out. So if I really wanted to, I could clean this up. Again, doesn't have to be perfect. That doesn't look too bad. Good job, kid. All right, the next section that we're going to do is we're going to add a black and white layer to this as well. So I'm going to create a black and white adjustment layer. Everything's good on that. And I'm going to take this icon or this layer mask, and I'm going to move it up here to the black and white. But you can see it's not wanting to do that. In Photoshop, it would allow us to drop that on there. What we need to do in Photopea first, select this layer mask, right click, and we're going to delete or raster mask, either one. Okay, so I'm going to delete that there. Now I can click this and drag and drop, and there we go, looking pretty super solid for our kid. Okay, for our next section, we're going to click on our layer mask, and we're going to do a little bit of editing. So we're going to go Control plus, and I'm going to zoom in. Don't forget, Control minus will zoom us out. I'm going to use my brush, and with my brush, I'm going to use black, and I'm going to come in here and block out some of that information around the eyes. And it's really hard to see here the difference that's actually happening, because this kid's got some like very light green, kind of bluish eyes. They're not super vibrant, but you can definitely see it when I hit some of the skin around the eye. So I'm going to flip that over, the eyelid, I should say. I'm just going to kind of brush right back on top of that. Spacebar to bring up the glove, and click and drag, and you can move everything. And Control minus will zoom us out. All right, our next portion is we're going to bring over a new item for us. We're going to bring over a photograph on top of this image. So pull open your image, okay, whatever face or area you want. We're talking about this right here, and we can drag and drop. All right, if you don't have that ability, you should be able to go open and place. If you don't like what you've brought in, you can always click the X, and it will undo that information. The nice thing is that it automatically converts this into a smart object, so we don't have anything crazy we need to do. I'm going to lower the opacity of this image a little bit so we can kind of see what we're doing here. And we're going to need to use the transform controls so that we can make this a little bit smaller. So I'm going to hold Shift on my keyboard and shrink this down so that it fits on our child's face. Something like that. Doesn't have to be perfect, but I'm just going to kind of go from edge to edge and put it somewhere pretty decent. Once I'm happy with that, I'm going to hit the check mark at the very top, and I'm going to turn off the control there by clicking on the transform controls. All right, once we have this item all set up, we are ready to start editing on that. So let's go up to Filter and Distort. We're going to start with Pinch. All right, I'm going to move that over here to the side. Right now, it's pinching things quite a bit. I'm going to pull that down to about 70-ish. This isn't looking too bad. You can see it changes the bubble a lot. It does take a second to kind of catch up to the item and what's going on. For this image, anywhere, I don't know, -40, even a little bit further, -51, that actually looks pretty good. So we're going to hit OK. And we're going to go in and we're going to transform this a little bit more. So I'm going to hit the transform controls here, still on the move tool. And I'm going to right click, and unfortunately there's no movements for us which would allow us to edit this. And we need to see those. All right, so we're going to go up to edit. And we're going to do some free transforming first. So I'm going to stretch, and I'm going to stretch this down and pinch this in just a little bit more. And we'll hit the check mark there. All right, once we are all satisfied with that, you may need to kind of adjust just a little bit. So I'm going to take the transform, hold shift, mark. That looks great. And turn that up. Nope, color burn. Okay, we are in the home stretch. Let's go up here to filter, distort, and displace. Once we're at displace, we're going to hit 5 pixels and another 5 here. All right. And now our source we're going to leave on background PSD. Repeat edge pixels is great, and we're going to hit OK. All right, we're going to finish up some of our final steps here. Now, the unfortunate thing is that this layer mask is not able to easily just be duplicated and dragged up here. So instead, what we're going to have to do is create a selection based off of this right here. And in order to do so, we want to bring up a selection like so. So if you're on Photoshop, or sorry, if you're on a Mac computer, you'll hold Command and then click the layer mask. And if you are on a Windows-based computer, you will hold Control and then click this. Once we have done that, we're going to go into this space right here, which is going to be our layer mask. Okay. And what we want to do is go up at the top. We're going to go to select and inverse. Now that we are on inverse, we are going to fill that space. So we are going to go up to edit and fill. And we're going to change the fill to black and hit OK. All right, fantastic. So that should have shaped some things up for us a little bit. I'm going to hit Command D on a Mac and Control D on a Windows-based computer. You could also go in with your brush on this layer mask here. We could raise that brush up a little bit, switch it to black, and kind of brush this down on both of our settings here. We're going to have just a little bit more that we're going to do. So let's go in and we're going to create a vibrancy filter. We're going to bring that vibrancy, make sure it is up at the top. On your computers, what we want to do is clip the two together. So we want to clip this layer and this layer so they are only working in cahoots with one another. In order to do that on a Macintosh, it is holding the Option button and clicking right here, and you'll see this arrow comes available. If you are on a Windows-based computer, I believe it is Alt and then click, and it will create this. Or take that vibrancy up. You could take it up to 100 if you wanted, and then take the saturation up a little bit. Just kind of boost that color. You could also go in and bring down the opacity if you didn't like it so vibrant. But I think that just kind of helps with some of that painting. Now, since we're kind of looking at the imagery here, I do want to point out, yes, we have some hard edges and some stuff that doesn't look the best in the world. But essentially, since we are working from Photopea, we are really limited on what things we can do and what those Chromebooks are capable of doing. So in all reality, this is actually pretty good for this program. If we wanted to go in and really adjust things and make them look a little bit more perfect, we could grab this, hold Shift on your keyboard, and click all the way down here. That will highlight everything that we just created. We could put it in a folder and then add a layer mask to that folder. So this little layer mask here. Once you do that, if you take your brush and we make it a little bit feathered, I could go around and kind of edit in or out anything that I didn't like. So if I wanted to kind of like chop things off right here, kind of make that look a little bit nicer. I'm doing a terrible job. But you kind of get the idea of how that could look, and it could look a little bit better. I would also take it out of his eyes. That doesn't look that great, right? That displacement map posted it back on his eyes there. Probably wouldn't paint those eyelids either. I take it off there. The unfortunate thing is that Photopea also has a really hard time with hair, whereas Photoshop does a great job of editing that out and making it look very clean. For us, I'm not too concerned. If you get down to this stage and you really tried your best, then I'm going to give you credit on that. I will notate another thing, that if you've watched the video so far, this is the end. This is looking pretty good for us. You can go File, export as, and we want it as a JPEG. And just a helpful little thing, this is actually going to be extra credit. So if you've came this far and you've edited and you've tried your hardest, congratulations. Save it and submit it, and I will give you extra credit towards your grade, which would be really, really, really cool. All right. Hopefully you guys didn't get too frustrated. I know it's not the easiest thing in the world, but I believe in you all.